If you have ever been to the Walt Disney World Resort, what would you say is the biggest incentive to stay on property? The location of the resorts? The quality of the hotels? Yeah, sure, those are all valid reasons to stay on site. But for me, I like staying on property because of the transportation. There is no bigger luxury than going to Walt Disney World and not having to worry about getting around. Here at Disney, you don't have to take an Uber, you don't have to take a taxi, you don't have to rent a car. No, you take the buses, you take the water taxis, the monorail, the Skyliner. There are so many ways to get around Walt Disney World, and all of it is free. Whoa, did I just use Disney and free in the same sentence? I never thought I'd see the day. That's right, there's no upcharge with the transportation, meaning that you can get around the property with ease. Which is still weird to say because Disney nickel and dimes you for everything. But the transportation, it's a perk. You can get to every single theme park, water park, shopping district, and hotel without even touching your wallet. Which is kind of a necessity because the entire property is the size of San Francisco. You know how expensive it would cost if you had to pay for an Uber every single day, getting back and forth between each and every park? Nah, that would be terrible. I wouldn't even consider staying at a Disney hotel anymore if I had to pay for the transport. And the same goes for Universal. Now that Epic Universe is open, I'm gonna be abusing their transportation system. How could I not? Epic is 3 miles down the road from the rest of the Universal property. Without transportation, I'm screwed. Before I could just walk to everything at Universal, everything was within that tiny city block. I mean, Islands and Studios, they're right next to each other. They were basically just one large park. But with Epic, Universal, they have expanded their footprint. They needed to invest more in their transportation network. That's why Universal, they suddenly have a much heftier bus fleet. They have to account for a sudden influx of guests that want to go to Epic Universe and are also staying at a Universal hotel. Currently, I would say Universal, they're doing pretty well for themselves. They seem to have enough buses to meet demand. If not, they appear to have some third-party buses from Mears on standby to help out if needed. But overall, if we give Universal enough time, then I think their bus fleet will reach a serviceable capacity. Not to mention, the buses, like Disney, they're clean, they're well kept. They don't feel like a traditional public transport bus where you're worried about getting stabbed. However, I do wonder, should Universal consider expanding their transportation system, moving away from buses and experimenting a little more? Maybe perhaps building some kind of train or monorail. Yeah, that's right, the topic of this video is the prospect of Universal building a monorail. A monorail, a well-known form of transportation that's been established at the Disney parks for the better part of 70 years. I want Universal to do this. I think a monorail would greatly benefit the Universal Orlando Resort. And let me tell you why. As I slightly glanced upon earlier, Universal, they used to be just confined to a city block. They didn't take up much of a footprint. Anywhere you wanted to visit at Universal, you can just walk there. Nothing was farther than a 10 to 30 minute hike. And if you didn't want to walk because you're an American, then you can just take a short-range bus. The point is, getting around Universal, it wasn't that big of a hassle. But now, Epic Universe is a thing. The Grand Helios is a thing. The Stella Nova in Terra Luna is a thing. Universal is now a much larger resort than before. They take up 2 massive plots of land that is separated by a 3-mile road. So wouldn't it be convenient if Universal had some way to connect it all that wasn't via a bus network, like maybe a monorail? Having a way to seamlessly integrate all of Universal. Does this seem a little outlandish? Well, I don't actually think so. Remember, most of the Universal properties are in one central hub that are in walking distance of the 2 main parks. So what if Universal, they decided to put a monorail station between Islands and Studios, a second monorail station by the hotel lot, i.e. Aventura, Cabana Bay, and the Royal Pacific, then they stretch a monorail down the road and connect it to the Epic Universe hub. That way there's one monorail that threads through all of Universal that every resort guest or park hopper can enjoy. Ooh, that would be so good. Universal, can you get on this? Can you please build a monorail or some kind of train system? Because it doesn't have to be a monorail. It can be like a APM at the airport. However, it would make me chuckle if you did go down the monorail route, just to stick it to Disney. But of course, like all theories and wishful thinking, there are a lot of caveats and conflicts that can arise with the development of a Universal monorail. With of course the 2 biggest roadblocks being capital and land. The reason why a company like Disney was even able to develop their own monorail, let alone 3 with the Resort, Magic Kingdom, and Epcot line, is because they had the space to do it. Disney, they have all the land they desire. They don't have to acquire any more. If they want to build something, they can. They don't have to worry about encroaching on other people's land. Universal, on the other hand, they're basically walking on eggshells. If Universal truly wanted to build a monorail route from City Walk to Epic, how would they even do that? Most of the land between old and new Universal is already developed. It's owned by hotels, restaurants, small businesses. Even if Universal really wanted to acquire this land, it would be nearly impossible to get it. Not everybody is willing to sell. So that means Universal, if they want to build a monorail, the first thing they gotta do is find a route and then try to acquire the land. But if they can't get the land, then you gotta go find a new route and then build it over there. Compared to Disney, this kind of headache wouldn't even cross their mind. They are the masters of their own destiny. Meanwhile, Universal, they would be beholden to the local 7-Eleven they want to build on top of. Realistically, if Universal did build a monorail, they would either try to stretch it alongside or in the middle of the road. However, I feel that Universal, they would more than likely build along the roadside, so they wouldn't have to make any major modifications to existing infrastructure. Then I would picture the monorail route stretching through the Endless Summer Resort, because Universal, they own that property. It would be way simpler to use the land they already own. And then, in a nutshell, it's a hop, skip, and a jump away to the main road that connects to Epic Universe. Again, Universal, they somehow have to work their way around a lot of private businesses. And most private businesses, they would not be keen with the monorail encroaching on their territory. But let's say Universal, they somehow figured it all out. They got the land, they know what route they want to take, and they want a monorail to happen. Okay, now we only have the second obstacle, the capital. Monorails, they are not cheap. They are not cheap to operate, they are not cheap to maintain, and they are certainly not cheap to build. To put it into perspective how much a Universal monorail would cost, the Las Vegas monorail that opened in 2004 had a price tag of $650 million. But if we adjust the price for inflation, that number is actually $1.128 billion. That's right, the straddle beam monorail costed over $1 billion, and it barely covers 4 miles. So if Universal wanted to build a monorail that would cover over 7 miles, so it can have a track that can go to Epic and back, it would cost over $2.025 billion, which comes out to roughly $290 million per mile of track. Now that is insanely expensive. To put that kind of money into perspective, Epic Universe alone had a price tag of around $7 billion. So a monorail would cost more than a third of this amount. And this is a conservative estimate. Again, Universal, they gotta acquire land, work with the city, and modify a lot of existing infrastructure because this monorail would have to go over International Drive, which is not an easy feat. So when it's all said and done, this hypothetical monorail would probably cost around $3 billion. Oh my god, that's a lot of money. A lot of money that can probably be spent somewhere else. As much as I want this theoretical monorail to happen, I can still acknowledge the fact that this thing isn't practical. This is not a good investment. $3 billion? Think about the opportunity cost. They can build another City Walk, half of a new theme park, multiple expansions for their existing theme parks. Those sound a lot better than another method of transportation. It's a pity. I just can't justify the price tag. Not to mention all the bureaucracy that would come with building a new monorail and the slow turnaround time. It's too difficult to build any form of railway through the city of Orlando. I mean, whatever happened to that Bright Line train? What's going on with that? I remember 5 years ago, it was supposed to be done in 2025, and now it's not going to be completed until 2030? What? And where is it even going to stop in Orlando? Is it still going to the Orange County Convention Center? Is it going to go to Disney? Is it not going to Disney? Seriously, Disney, why were you so stupid to back out of the project? Point being, it's hard enough for this private company to build a new form of transportation, so what luck will Universal have? Maybe one day in the future when Universal opens their 4th park, and they've built 5 more hotels around Epic Universe, and they need to cut back on their bus fleet, maybe then, and only then, will they explore the monorail option, or some other kind of train network. I would like to think, though, that if Universal ever did build a monorail, it would be better than Disney's. Because Disney, they just don't take care of their monorails anymore, do they? How old are those Mark 6 monorails again? 30, 35 years old? Who cares? They're probably in tip-top condition, right? I'm just saying that if Universal ever built a monorail, it would be way more efficient than Disney's. It can pull from a larger hotel pool, compared to the existing 3 that Disney has on its resort loop. And the monorails would be a lot more modern, because Disney's are basically falling apart. Universal, if you somehow get the funds, please show Disney how it's done. I'm sure you can do better than them.